just give everyone a minute to come in from the waiting room. As a reminder, please mute yourself. Good afternoon. This is a hearing before the Licensing Board for the City of Boston. Today is Tuesday, December 1st, 2020. Today's hearing is being recorded pursuant to certain temporary amendments to the open meeting law. That is what allows us to meet virtually. This hearing will be posted to the City of Boston's website. Before I go over some procedural matters, I will introduce Chairwoman Kathleen Joyce.
Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Kathleen Joyce. I'm Chair of the Licensing Board, and today I'm joined by Commissioner Liam Curran and Commissioner Kiana Saxon.
Thank you, Chairwoman. As a reminder, please mute yourself unless you have been called or you have been called on to testify. Please ensure that you are able to unmute yourself when you are called. Please also ensure that you are able to turn your video on if you need to be sworn in. When I call each agenda item, I will first ask who is present from the licensee. I will then ask who is present from the Boston Police Department to testify. And I will then ask if there are any witnesses with personal knowledge who wish to testify. I will then swear in all parties. As a reminder, the only testimony that can be accepted is testimony from individuals with personal knowledge of the alleged incident. The general reputation of a licensee or the feelings of a butter who is not present for the alleged incident cannot be considered by the board. If you do wish to submit information and you do not have personal knowledge, you can do so in writing. And again, please mute yourself. Calling D&D Hospitality LLC, doing business as Publico, located at 11 Dorchester Street. The date of the incident is March 14th, 2020. Assault and battery employee on patron in violation of Mass General Law, Chapter 138, Section 64, Chapter 265, Section 13A. Is there anyone present from the applicant? Is the licensee for Publico present? I see Theo's iPhone. Theo, if you could please unmute yourself and turn on your video.
There you go. Can you hear me now?
We can hear you now. Could you please turn on your video?
All right. Give me one sec, Liz.
Who from the Boston Police Department is present to testify?
Officer Morano. Mark McEwen.
Oh, I'm sorry, could you each state that again?
Detective Mark McEwen.
Officer Jason Morano.
Thank you. And I believe Theo is still trying to turn on his video. Are there any individuals with personal knowledge who wish to testify regarding this alleged incident? Seeing none, I'm going to ask all parties to raise your right hand. I trust that if you have your video off, you've raised your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
I do.
Thank you. Detective or officer, you may proceed with the police report.
Okay, about 10:45 hours on Wednesday, March 18th, 2020. I spoke to a victim for an assault and battery report. I spoke to victim Jordan Powell, who stated he was assaulted outside Publico at 11 Dorchester Street in South Boston on 3/14/2020. Victim stated he was outside Publico in a large line waiting to get in on Saturday, 3/14/20 at approximately 22:50 hours, which would be 10:50 p.m. Victim stated at one point the bouncers advised the crowd that they were no longer allowing entrance due to coronavirus concerns. Victim stated he and his small group, including witness Vicky Tondre, remained outside after the crowd dispersed. Victim stated a short time later he observed someone in his party being pushed by a bouncer and he attempted to intervene. He stated upon involving himself, he then began to scuffle with another bouncer, but they both quickly disengaged. He stated after disengaging with the bouncer, he was suddenly sucker punched out of nowhere by an unknown suspect. Victim stated he was struck on his right eye and subsequently fell to the ground. Victim then observed the suspect walk into the bar after hitting him. Suspect was described as mid-20s, light-skinned male, possibly Hispanic or black, 6 foot to 6'2", 280 pounds, cornrows or braided hair with faded sides, wearing possibly a gray sweatshirt. Victim stated he spoke with the owner and the other staff at Publico after the incident and was concerned that the suspect was allowed to re-enter the bar after the assault. Victim advised he sought medical attention and required stitches in his left eyebrow and nose due to deep lacerations. Victim also had swelling and bruising to his right eye. That's it.
Thank you. Are there any supplemental reports?
I conducted a follow-up investigation. I spoke with the victim. He basically repeated the facts stated inside the initial police report. I spoke to Theo Bugas, who provided video of the incident. After viewing the incident on video, it appeared that both the victim and the suspect were essentially mutual combatants. And based on the kind of the chaos that was going on and them trying to clear the scene, it didn't seem as if that, you know, one was the victim was sucker punched. It was that it seemed that he almost just got caught up in the affray that was going on. And after which I issued the violation to Mr. Bugas.
Thank you. Chairwoman Joyce?
I don't have any questions at this point. Does the licensee want to respond?
Hi, everybody. How are you? Hope you can hear me. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I just wanted to say things that I just heard pretty accurate. I also want to say that night, just because of circumstances, the board and the mayor's office cut everything in half. I usually have one person at Publico. I've never had a violation. We've been almost open for 4 years. Nothing like this has ever happened. And unfortunately, we've never even had a line there. And unfortunately, with what occurred that evening, I didn't see it, but I looked at the video, obviously. I spoke with Mr. Bell for, probably a half an hour that night. I come to find out the person was an employee that I hired for that night, who has worked for me in the past, never had an issue before. I did terminate him on the spot after asking him, did he strike the victim or the patron? And he did say he was in a fight with him, and he did. And we have a policy here that just defend yourself. We're not into punching customers, right or wrong. And pretty much everything else that was stated is facts.
Okay. I do have a question about, it says there was a large line waiting to get in, and you said there was one bouncer outside, probably due to the
I usually have just one person checking IDs on a regular Saturday, but because of the circumstances that day, I asked 3 more people to come in. So I actually have 3 people outside. I just didn't want egresses being blocked because people didn't know what was going on. I usually, at Publico, we're more of a dinner spot, and all I was allowing at that point were reservations. The person that was with Mr. Bell, who started this whole thing, he basically wanted to get into the restaurant, forced himself into the restaurant, then said he had a reservation, and he was the person that was basically behind this whole thing from the get-go. Staff was escorting him out. That's when Mr. Bell and company decided to get out of the line, stand behind the people working the door at the front door at Publico, and that's when the scuffle happened. Once we were trying to escort this other gentleman who I don't even know his name. He was trying to force himself in there. Obviously, we want to stand by the rules and the regulations with the capacity that day, which was cut in half. So, and unfortunately, this situation occurred, and that's it.
Okay, I don't have any other questions. Is there, Leslie, is there a victim here? I should have asked that earlier.
No other individuals have requested to testify. I'll ask again, is there anyone present with personal knowledge of the alleged incident who wishes to testify? Seeing no one, Commissioner Curran or Commissioner Saxon, do you have any questions?
No, thank you.
Leslie, if I may, I contacted with an attorney from that said he represented a victim. I see his name here, Matthew Butler. I don't know if he wants to participate or if the victim was also present.
Thank you.
Good morning. Sorry, I was having trouble with my Zoom on my iPad. I don't wish to testify. I'm really just observing at this time. But yes, I do represent Mr. Powell in his claim for civil damages.
Mr. Butler, is your client present?
No, he is not.
Thank you. Seeing no other individuals who wish to testify and no other questions, the board will take this matter under advisement. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Calling 49 Melcher Restaurant Group, LLC, doing business as Nashville Kitchen Chalet, located at 49 Melcher Street. The date of the incident is November 1st, 2020. Assault and battery with a deadly weapon, patron on patron, inside premise, in violation of Mass General Law, Chapter 138, Section 4, Chapter 265, Section 15A. Is the licensee present?
Yes, we are. Attorney William Ferrulo on behalf of the licensee. With me today is Ricardo Caluzzi, who will be sworn in as a witness.
Mr. Caluzzi, is your camera on?
He's in the same room, so I'm going to just turn this to the other side of the table.
Thank you. And who from the Boston Police Department will be testifying? Will be reading this into the record?
Detective William Gallagher. I believe Detective Eddie Hernandez, if any representatives from District 6 aren't on Zoom.
Are there any other individuals with personal knowledge of the alleged incident who wish to testify?
Yes, my name is Haley Marsh, and I'm a resident of 49 Melcher Street.
And Ms. Marsh, were you present for the alleged incident?
Yes, I was in the building. There's an apartment building on top of the restaurant, so I was one who called the cops.
Okay, so you do have personal knowledge. Could you please turn your camera on?
Is it okay if I remain anonymous off camera?
I do need to swear you in. If you have the ability to turn your camera on, that would be helpful. Thank you. All parties, please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
I do. I do.
Sergeant, you can proceed with the police report.
I think that Detective Hernandez will start.
Good morning. Yes, I'll be reading a report authored by Officer Rivas. At about 6:05 p.m. on Sunday, 11/1/20, Officer De Los Santos and Officer Rivas assigned to the Fox 102F responded to a radio call for a disturbance at 49 Melcher Street in Boston. While en route to the incident, the call was escalated to a fight, then to a stabbing. Upon arrival, officers observed Boston EMS on scene. Officers entered Bastille Restaurant and observed tables moved to the side, broken glass on the floors, chairs knocked over, broken furniture, drops of blood, and groups of people yelling and pointing. Officers located the victim between table 310, table 61 in the bar. He was on the ground with several individuals applying pressure to his wounds. EMTs entered the establishment to render aid to the victim, later identified as Roderick Tyler. Boston EMS Ambulance A6 transported Mr. Tyler, who suffered a stab wound to the abdomen and right hip, to BMC. Officer Smiglani, the Fox 55, followed to the victim to the hospital. Boston EMS paramedic A1 transported victim to Christopher Woodhull, who's suffering from a stab wound to the upper right back and laceration on the back right arm, to Tufts Medical Center. Officer Roby, Fox 435 Frank accompanied the victim to the hospital. Officers were advised that a third victim, John Silva, was transported to MGM suffering from a laceration to the hand. The Alpha 411 Frank went to the hospital to speak to the victim. Additional units responded to the scene to assist, including the Fox 412, Fox 42, Fox 101, Fox 1055, Fox 603. EDTs also responded per orders of Sergeant Gibbs. The Harry 907 officers attempted to secure the scene to prevent witnesses from leaving. Amid high tension, officers calmly explained to the patrons that detectives would arrive on scene to take their statements. Sergeant Detective Donlin, Fox 983, and Detective Morgan, the Fox 804, Sergeant Detective Johnson, and Detective Fondas arrived on scene to take statements. Sergeant Detective Gallagher, the Victor 923, arrived on scene. Officer Pena and Briggs arrived on scene to process the scene. A 2018 gray Nissan Altima with Pennsylvania registration then was located in Echo Street and Melcher Street and was towed by Chevy Auto Body. That is essentially that police report.
Hi, Sergeant Detective Gallagher here. I pick up on the, after that, I was called that night by Sergeant Detective Donlin informing me that there was at least a double stabbing down at the Bastille Kitchen at 49. Arrived on scene shortly after 7:45 p.m. I encountered units from the Boston Police Identification Crime Scene Unit there, as well as numerous officers. Inside the premise, I was appraised by Sergeant Detectives Donlin and Gibbs that there was a stabbing. There had been a private party where a promoter had brought in a crowd of approximately 100 individuals, and it was a sit-down, catered affair. An altercation broke out, and there was a stabbing. I spoke to the manager on scene, Ricardo Calusi. We tried to access the video security cameras inside the premise. We're unsuccessful doing that. All the victims were taken to the hospital. We alerted the ownership, tried to have them come down and open up the cameras as well. Prior to my leaving, that had not been done. As a result of all that we had learned that evening, I issued license premise citation number 024093 to the Bastille Kitchen for ABDW ×2 inside premise. The violation was signed for and accepted by the manager, Ricardo Calusi. Those are the facts.
Thank you, Sergeant. Attorney
I'm sorry. Just a couple of questions. First for Sergeant Gallagher. Sergeant Gallagher, the management called the detectives at District 6 the next morning to have them come to pick up the tapes. Is that correct?
I'm not aware of that, sir.
Okay. Is anyone else on the line that would be aware of what took place the next day? No, okay. All right, thank you. But while you were there, Mr. Calusi and the staff cooperated with you during this?
Yes, sir, they did.
Okay, and I'm sorry, Officer Pena, who testified first?
Detective Hernandez did.
I'm sorry, Fernandez. Are you still on the line, Detective Fernandez?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and when you arrived, also the...
Sorry, I was not on scene. Sorry, I was not on scene. I just wrote.
You just wrote the report. Okay, thank you.
No, I just read the report, sir. I'm sorry.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
If I may, the background to this, and Mr. Calusi's here, and hopefully you may get a call in from Mr. Greenberg, who is the principal of Bastille Kitchen. The restaurant's been closed since March. It's only been open on 3 occasions since March, and those 3 occasions were a weekend brunch that we started doing a couple of weeks before this particular incident. And this was the third of the 3. We have canceled that, and the restaurant is closed once again. This was done, as were the prior brunches, with COVID regulations, as far as separation of parties, wearing of masks, limit of 6 people per table. As has been stated, we had approximately 100 reservations for the brunch. The brunch ran from 2 o'clock and was scheduled to go until 7. And it was uneventful till about 6 o'clock that evening. And during the course of which we did have a DJ, and we had jazz saxophone playing during the course of the brunch. It was a order for menu brunch, not a buffet style brunch, etc. As stated, we used an event planner to publicize and advertise the brunch and take or pass along to us the bulk of the reservations for this afternoon. We have used him before without any problems or incidents for other events in the past, not the brunch events, but other events in the past. As mentioned, we've terminated that relationship until we decide what's going to be happening going forward after we make a decision about reopening or not reopening due to the COVID. Mr. Caluzzi, who's present, has 35 years experience in the business, 20 of them in the Boston area with restaurants and hotels. However, this was his first day working at Bastille. He had 1 day of training prior to this, before this particular event. What he would tell you is that, I'm sorry, did we lose our connection?
We can still hear you.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that. This was his first day working. He will tell you that between 2 and 6, everything was relatively calm and no problems, no incidents, etc. At approximately 6 o'clock, he heard a disturbance in the dining room. He was at the host station where he was greeting people. He went into the dining room and approached one of the tables where patrons who had been at the table, plus some of our staff, were involved in a scuffle fight where our staff was trying to separate people. He attempted himself to terminate that and have people separate, but was not successful. So he informed folks that he was calling the police department. That call went in at 6:14 from his cell. He then went back to the area of the disturbance, informed people that the police were on their way. This got people to separate, and some of which started to leave. At the time, there were approximately 40 patrons on site and about 8 staff members, etc. The police arrived fairly quickly. When they arrived, Mr. Caluzzi and his staff were with the individual who was injured on the floor, trying to render assistance to him. Police and EMTs came and they took over that from them. Our staff remained on site. Approximately 20 or so patrons remained on site to be interviewed by the police department. As mentioned, we were asked to provide video. However, Mr. Caluzzi did not have the password to access the cameras and wasn't able to get that till the next day when another manager came to the premise. They called, I think they remember the detective's name? Okay.
I think it was McEwen.
We believe it's Detective McEwen. And the second detective arrived on the Monday, at which time they downloaded the videos onto a thumb drive and took that with them. As I have mentioned, the only business that we have done since March, 3 brunch dates that we've had on weekends, as mentioned, until the situation uneventful in terms of what took place, and currently we have stopped that and not open at all. So we did had no expectation that we would have this type of a problem. Mr. Caluzzi will tell you that until it actually happened, he did not foresee that there was problems going on in the dining room. As mentioned, wasn't overly crowded. We have a capacity in excess of 200, and we didn't have anywhere near, half that capacity at any given time. So with that, Mr. Calusi is here to answer any questions.
Thank you, Attorney Ferrullo. Before we turn to questions from the chairwoman and commissioners, Ms. Marsh, you wish to testify? Ms. Marsh, can you unmute yourself, please? He's just trying to change locations. Ms. Marsh, can you please unmute yourself if you wish to testify?
Yes, sorry, my connection's a little spotty in here. So again, I'm a resident of 49 Melcher Street. Unfortunately, the event that happened on the evening of November 1st, Sunday, was the only event that the police have actually come and it took a stabbing for this restaurant really to come into light here. Pre-COVID, the restaurant operates well beyond its audible levels for an apartment building. And myself and many of the residents have been instructed by 311 to call 911 to voice our disturbance complaints about the noise and the partying. The original intent of this restaurant was supposed to be a fine dining 5-star restaurant on a quiet 4-point street. I don't know when it was turned over to club promoters with bouncer lines outside, loud music in the basement, live music on the first floor. But if you're living on the second floor of this apartment building, it sounds like they're in your living room. So when the COVID-19 shutdown happened, me and the rest of the residents were pleasantly surprised by the lack of sound, trash violations for their spewing trash dumpsters in the back of the building, which cause rodents, many of which have been reported to 311 and all received trash violations for. But then to open again for 3 weekends during the middle of a pandemic was quite surprising to us. I searched online and found the Bent Brunch hashtags, which were promoted by this third-party promoter that the client, the licensor, has mentioned. They weren't trying to hide any of these events, that's for sure. In the middle of a pandemic, really a public safety issue, I was home all Halloween weekend because I was instructed by the city not to go out because we're in the middle of a pandemic. To come to find out that there was over 100 people packed into Bastille with live music, the saxophone player not wearing a mask, many of the patrons not wearing masks, which all can be seen from all the social media posts that were posted with the Bent Brunch hashtag. So I don't understand what they're saying by.
I'm just going to ask you, we appreciate.
Sorry, go ahead.
Please limit your testimony to your personal knowledge. We can't take into consideration things you have viewed on social media or prior incidents. You can certainly contact the board with any concerns, but for today's purposes, please limit your testimony to your personal knowledge of the alleged incident.
Fair enough, I understand. At 6 o'clock approximately, I was in the building and I went down to pick up my takeout order from outside. I could tell that there was really loud music coming from the building, and another tenant approached me in the mailroom and said, "What's going on in Bastille?" I said I wasn't sure, but I would call 911 and voice our concerns about the noise complaint, which was certainly louder than you would expect from a COVID-19 shutdown. When I called the cops, 911, to report this noise, they didn't sound too urgent to get over there. As expected, I felt pretty silly making the call. I went back upstairs and moments later heard 10 to 15 cop cars, ambulance coming down the street. I sprinted down to the apartment, first floor, where I ran into an officer and asked him what was going on. At that point, I was obviously really upset that I had caused this commotion. And he had notified me that there was a stabbing of two patrons inside Bastille and to please step away because it was a dangerous crime scene at that point. I went back upstairs and watched from the window as many of the patrons poured out of the restaurant, where there was an extreme altercation with one of the Boston cops, where the rest of the residents watched this whole scene unfold as well. So
I believe, Ms. Marsh, your connection froze. Ms. Marsh, can you hear us?
Sorry, I'm losing connection again. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
We can hear you.
Ms. Marsh, did you have anything else to add?
I think I'm frozen again.
We can hear you if you can hear us.
Yep, so that's the end of my testifying.
Thank you.
Thank you. Chairwoman Joyce?
I just want to check, is there anyone else here who wishes to testify about the alleged incident?
Commissioner Joyce, if I could, Lieutenant Troy, just reading from the detective case management here, that there's a notation. There's a notation.
Lieutenant, can I
That's-
see you in first, please?
Pardon?
Raise your right hand for me.
Oh, yeah, of course. Sorry,
Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Thank you. Please go ahead.
I'm sorry, I apologize. Just reading from the detective case management relative to this incident, there's a notation in here from Detective Fondas that detectives obtained video from the Bastille kitchen. Unfortunately, the camera did not record the incident. The camera in the vicinity was not working at the time of the incident. And that's the notation from the detective on November 15th. There's also a notation further down that the video was obtained on November 7th.
So does that say that there was no video, or the video that they did have doesn't show this incident?
It notes that there was video obtained from the Bastille kitchen.
Okay.
Unfortunately, their cameras did not record the incident. The camera in the vicinity, apparently where the incident took place, or where the altercation took place, was not working at the time of the incident. That's a notation.
Okay. Thank you.
Well,
Attorney Ferrullo, I have a couple questions for your client. What is
Yes.
his name again?
First name Ricardo, last name Coluzzi, C-O-L-U-Z-Z-I.
Okay. So Mr. Coluzzi, is he
I'm gonna,
the manager of the
I'm gonna
restaurant?
flip this, he's on the other
Okay.
side.
Good afternoon.
Hi, Mr. Coluzzi. Are you the manager of the restaurant?
I was the manager of the restaurant for that evening. It was, as Mr. Ferrullo said, it was my first day.
Okay. Is the manager of record present?
No.
Okay. That's an issue. We have been notified by the manager of record. He hasn't worked there since 2019. So the proprietor of the restaurant should contact our office immediately.
Madam Chairwoman, I'll address that when you finish questioning.
Okay. Mr. Coluzzi, were you working when the detectives and the sergeant tried to serve notice of this violation to the restaurant?
I was there. I wasn't there.
You
I
were
mean, I
not
was
there?
working that evening. I'm not sure if that's the question you're asking me. I'm sorry.
Sergeant Detective Gallagher, I understand we tried several times to serve management with the notice of this violation, and they refused to take the violation and sign for it?
No, I'm not aware.
They were actually closed. Every time we went by, there was no one there.
Okay. So there was no one that
I'm not-
refused to?
There was no automatic refusal, just by sheer nature of
Okay.
lights outdoors locked.
Okay.
Madam Chairwoman, as I think I stated, they have been closed since since November 1st date, except to go there the next day to assist getting the videos.
Okay. So Mr. Coluzzi, you had hired a promoter to promote a brunch from 2 p.m. to 7 p.m.?
No.
Or somebody did?
No, it was just an event planner. Then was hired to advertise the brunch.
Okay. And can you describe the brunch for me? I think you testified, or your attorney testified, there was 100 people. How many seatings did you have that day?
So we had, there were all tables of 6. So all spaced out 6 feet apart.
Were they, how many times, like, did people come in at 2 and leave at 3:30? Did people stay from 2 to 7?
It was staggered. It was staggered. A lot of people came in. A lot of people came in around 3 o'clock when they started coming in, and a lot of people came in afterwards as well. So there wasn't really that many people in the restaurant at all times. So there was everything was spaced out correctly with for COVID regulations and everything.
How many employees were working that day?
Around 8 servers and then plus a couple of people that work in the kitchen. Between servers and bus boys, obviously, like, yeah. I mean, like,
And everything was by reservation?
Yes.
So were the victims that were involved in the stabbing, they had a reservation that day?
I'm not aware of that, ma'am. I wasn't really part of the scheduling of anything, so I'm not exactly sure if it was the people then they actually were injured, that they were part of the reservations or not. I'm sure they were part of the people that came in, obviously. And it was a table of 6, the reservation was only under one name.
Okay.
Sure
So it wasn't like they walked in without a reservation?
No, absolutely not.
Well, it was your first day on the job, but were any of these people known to you?
No, ma'am.
Were any of these people known to other staff members working that day?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Did you observe this table of 6 that day?
No, I haven't seen exactly what happened. I mean, I just heard, as Mr. Frullo said, I heard around right past 6 o'clock, I heard a commotion inside the restaurant. So I went over there, I heard glass breaking. So I went in there and I saw people were they were fighting. So I saw glass breaking, plates coming down. So I tried to go in there to figure out what was happening. And right after that, obviously, I tried to stop the people, try to talk to people to stop and please don't do that. And then I stepped out. Obviously, that wasn't working. I stepped out and then called the police right away.
Okay. How would you describe the crowd that day?
Honestly, there were up to that point was kind of uneventful. I mean, we never really thought that something like that was going to happen. They were well behaved. Everybody was wearing masks, and was nothing that made us think that something like that would have happened that day. And it was very quiet. We were almost like at the end of the brunch, if you really see the time. So for another 45 minutes we would have done. So it was almost like very uneventful. Everybody was behaving, and all of a sudden this happened.
So the people that were involved in the stabbing, did they arrive together? Were they at the same reservation? Were they known to each other?
Probably, yes, I think so. I'm not sure exactly who they were, but they arrived together, yeah.
And how many hours were they there?
I would say probably like an hour and a half, I would say. I'm not exactly aware at the time they came in exactly, but I would say probably an hour and a half, I would say, then they were there.
Okay. Did any of your staff, I assume you interviewed them after a stabbing occurred, did any of your staff have anything to say about whether or not this was foreseeable?
No, actually, we didn't really see that. I mean, again, as I said, it was actually pretty uneventful, and up to that point, and people were having fun. Obviously they were behaving very well. So up to that point, we weren't really. Even the staff was serving the food. I mean, we were like doing the right thing. I mean, we never really had anyone coming up to me and say, "Look, I think something is going to happen." We wouldn't really had that. So I think it was unforeseeable. I mean, we didn't really see anything happening.
How many drinks did the people involved in the stabbing have that day?
Not aware of that, ma'am. But we didn't have anyone intoxicated or anything like that.
But you would have some sort of documentation of what they ordered and how many drinks, right?
We might be able to find that out and eventually get back.
It's just unusual to have a stabbing during a brunch, a daytime brunch.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm curious if this was foreseeable to you or your staff, or how much they were served.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't for that. That's for sure. I mean, we didn't. Obviously, we're very well aware of, not, over serving people and everything. We always stress out about that. Even on our pre-meals, you have to make sure that, obviously, all the employees use their judgment for that. They're very well aware that tip certified. So obviously, it seems a bit, like something that, very, very unusual for something that happens at 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, I don't have any questions. Commissioner Curran or Commissioner Saxon?
Yeah, I have a couple questions. Mr. Calusi, you pretty much are saying that you didn't really see anything and you're not really sure what happened, correct?
Yeah, we didn't really, I didn't really see what caused that, you know.
Okay, do you
I
have
was
an employee,
I was in the host stand most
do you
of
have
the
an
time.
employee, do you have an employee who does know what happened?
I'm not aware of that, you know.
Did you ask anybody?
Yeah, we asked. I mean, like, obviously, as I said, you know, we were serving food, they were busy and doing other stuff, so we didn't really see the actual moment then that happened. The staff was just very busy, you know, attending to people.
Okay, but could you confirm with your employees whether or not these people were in one party or whether it were separate parties?
I mean, like, when we were talking to the employees, they weren't absolutely sure what happened. You know, they might have, you know, been at the same table or not, but we weren't really sure. So every table remained at 6 people. So we didn't really, you know, we didn't really know exactly what happened, as I said. I can't really answer that question. I haven't really, like, we didn't really know what forced that, what was the actual cause of the, you know, the people started fighting.
So essentially, nobody saw anything.
No, not the actual moment of what caused to that. As I said prior, it was very uneventful. Everything was very quiet. We didn't really have something that we didn't really have any clue that something like that would have happened. And we didn't really have any of the people were very well behaved. That's all I can say. So it's kind of like it was shocking for all of us, you know, to go through that.
That's all I have for the moment.
So you mentioned that the camera, one of the cameras that might have been focused on that incident wasn't working. How long has it not been?
That I can get my.
I'm going to try to add some information to that because we have some. When they came back to look at the film and to copy the cameras, they took whatever they did. Someone called later to say that they couldn't see the film, the video from at least one or more cameras. We checked with the company that does the video work, who said that the system had been upgraded, but apparently one or more of these cameras doesn't read on the current system. So they have to be replaced. It's not so much that it wasn't working, but the system doesn't allow it to read whatever comes off one. It could be more than one. So they were going to replace cameras, but as stated, we've been closed, and that's one of the other reasons for our staff is not there either. But as many of the cameras that were able to be read are recorded. It's just that one or more of these cameras is not functioning on the current system.
I have a couple more questions, unless Commissioner Saxon has another question. And maybe it's for Attorney Ferrullo or for Mr. Calusi, I'm not sure. This event planner that planned this brunch, what's this event planner's name?
It's Bent Brunch. Sometimes it's spelled with a dot after the B. And as mentioned, we have used this gentleman pre-COVID to assist with events that we've had. He does other events in the city. The most that I know about him is what I can find online as well as what I've been told.
Okay. So what's the difference in your mind between a promoter and an event planner here?
It's terminology. In other words, he's paid an advertising fee by us. He's paid additional fee if he exceeds the goals, meaning we determine by the reservations. He takes the reservations, turns them into us. We put them in our computer system. From there, if there were 70 reservations, we pay him a fee based on the 70. If he exceeds a certain number, we pay him, accordingly on that. And that's how he's paid.
So who does the ID checking? If he has made a reservation for your restaurant, and what if you want to deny entrance to somebody he has made a commitment to?
Well, he doesn't make a commitment. He makes a reservation. As far as a brunch, we don't have door staff the way we would at evenings. Usually if this were open in the evening as we have in the past, after a certain time in the evening, like 10 o'clock, we start IDing people at the door. But while the restaurant's operating, for restaurant service, we don't have door staff.
Does Bent Brunch get a percentage of alcohol sales from the day?
No, absolutely.
Okay.
No, he's paid a flat fee, but the fee can increase if he exceeds whatever the goal is for that particular day.
And the goal would be the number of people, not the sales?
The number of people, correct.
Okay. I don't have any questions about the stabbing. I do have a question after this about the manager of record. There's a lot of confusion, and we've been contacted by the manager of record because we had called him about the stabbing. Well,
let me answer as best I can. Primarily due to the fact that they've been closed, our office has not been asked to file a change of manager. I have spoken with Mr. Greenberg. I thought he might be able to call in. He also wanted me to let you know that if he couldn't call in today, he is available to either speak with you and the board or do a video conference with you and the board, et cetera, about the restaurant and his future plans. I have stressed with him that he cannot be named as the manager himself while they're closed. He needs to name somebody. The reason he can't be named is he's not a Massachusetts resident, so he can't serve that. So he actually was hoping that Mr. Caluzzi would be his next manager, but Mr. Caluzzi is still contemplating that after his baptism by fire here. But we will file a change of manager with you as soon as he identifies either one of his so-called assistant managers that's worked for him for a number of years that can fill that role. But what we will tell you is we will not open for business until we have a change of manager on file with you.
Okay. I have no further questions. Commissioner Curran? Commissioner Saxon? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Board will take this matter under advisement. Calling Jian Hung Inc., doing business as New Moon Villa Restaurant, located at 15 to 19 Edinburgh Street. The date of the incident is November 10th, 2020. Premise allowing bring your own alcohol on premise, tequila and Hennessy, in violation of Mass General Law, Chapter 138, Section 64. Patrons on premise at 10:35 p.m. in violation of Mass General Law, Chapter 138, Section 64, and the Governor's Executive Order. Is the licensee present?
Hi, Ms. Hawkins and Ms. Joyce and Commissioner Curran. Present beside me is Vincent Lin, manager of Moonville Restaurant. He does not speak fluent English and would like me to translate from if I may.
Sure.
What is your name, sir?
My name is Gianni.
Thank you. Who from the Boston Police Department will be testifying?
I will be.
Thank you, Detective. Are there any other individuals with personal knowledge regarding the alleged incident who wish to testify today?
Sergeant William Gallagher, if need be.
Thank you. Both the detective and the sergeant have been sworn in. Mr. Gianni, could you and the licensee please raise your right hand? Raise your right hand to be sworn in, please. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Yes?
Yes.
Thank you. Detective Hernandez, you may proceed with the report.
Okay. I'll be reading from a police report which I wrote on Tuesday, November 10th, 2020. At about 10:35 p.m., Sergeant Detective William Gallagher and Detective Eddie Hernandez, assigned to the licensed premise unit, were performing checks of bars and restaurants during the COVID-19 emergency. While walking up to the front door of Moon Villa, located at 1519 Edinburgh Street, detectives noticed 3 persons dancing in the dining area. These persons were observed with what appeared to be food and drinks in front of them. As detectives walked inside, they noticed these patrons were drinking various mixed drinks and had a bottle of tequila and cognac on the table. Detectives reiterated the importance of the Governor and Boston Licensing Board advisory on the prohibition of having patrons inside of a licensed premise after the mandatory 10 p.m. closing. Detectives brought this to the attention of the person in charge, Mr. Wen Jian Lin. Mr. Lin stated that the patrons had brought in the 2 bottles of alcohol with them. It should be noted that the establishment's common victual license is issued for beer and wine only. As a result of what detectives observed, Sergeant Detective Gallagher issued license premise inspection notice 005415 for 3 patrons in premise after mandatory 10 p.m. closing and established allowing patrons to bring in alcohol into premise. Mr. Ling signed for and accepted the notice. Those are essentially the facts. And then there also are 2 pictures in there of the some of the patrons and definitely bottles on the table. And that is all.
Thank you, Detective. Gianni, do you on behalf of the owner want to explain what happened that evening?
Okay, sure. Let me ask him. Okay. 你想唔想解釋乜發生咩事？
即當時你我就唔知嗰係個假名喎，真係你酒嚟嘅，以為你玩嘅字嗰啲嘢。
He said at the time when the waiter recepted the customers, he was not at the restaurant. And when he left the restaurant, he had told the waiter that they must close by 10, and that and that the waiter had no knowledge that customers had brought in outside alcohol. And 咁樣
即係嗰個時間啊，即係忘記咗啊，冇喺個鐘嘅10點。
Okay, he said that when the customer finished dinner, the waiter had asked them to leave by 10 p.m. and the waiter had lost track of time, while attending to his other chores at the restaurant. And that's all he has to say.
Okay. Do you work there, Mr. Gianni?
No, I don't. I'm a friend of his.
Okay.
Yes.
Does he have anything else he'd like to share with the board before I ask a couple of questions?
你仲有咩嘢要加？
即係我主要係忘記咗嗰個時間，即係我就9點嘅一早講過嚟啦。
Yeah, he's just the waiter just lost track of the closing time. I mean, of the dining hours.
Okay. That's what my concern is. Does he understand now about the change in the closing time, how everyone has to be out by 10 p.m.?
你嘅知明白，即係一定10點鐘。
我明白，依家明白。
Yeah, now he understands.
Okay, and does he receive our emails that update our licensees about any changes? We have an email list. If there's someone there that would like to give us their contact information, we'll make sure he has it. I know it's been very confusing with the governor's changes, but we're doing our best to inform licensees about how to operate safely. If there's a contact person that works there that we could send the information to, it would probably be helpful to him moving forward.
Let me ask him. Okay.
Okay.
佢話你有冇個 email 俾佢哋？你有冇 email 俾佢哋可以寄嘢俾你，等你通知有啲新嘅法例改變。
有。Okay. 你將我 email。
email yeah.
Okay, and
he does. He's gonna give it to you right now.
Okay, and I just want to make sure he realizes there's no dancing allowed. It's just eating and drinking that's allowed right now.
Okay.
We can't have any dancing.
即係唔可以跳舞。Okay. 即係可以食嘢，可以飲酒。Okay. So it's WENJIANLIN1105 at gmail.com.
Leslie, can we add this person to our list for Moon Villa, just so they make sure they get all the information as well?
Absolutely.
Okay, so we want to be helpful to you, sir, understanding the changes to the rules and regulations and the governor's guidance. So if there's anything we can do to help explain them, but just to go over them as far as the governor's guidance, there's no dancing allowed right now. It's just food and beverage at the tables. And people have to have been served by 9:15 in order to stay on the premise until 10 p.m. You can't have people coming in later.
Okay.
Your employees can't drink on the premise. And I'm not saying that they were drinking that night, but that's something people have been, we've been notified that's been happening at some places. And how many, back to the November 10th incident, how many people were actually in the restaurant at 10:35?
佢話10點半嗰時有幾人入邊
4個人。
It's four customers.
Oh, 4 customers?
Yeah.
Okay. And you're saying you weren't aware that they had brought their own drinks?
Yeah, the waiter wasn't aware that.
Oh, okay. You want to make sure that your patrons don't bring their own alcohol anymore. It's not allowed. Okay.
Make sure 下次唔可以帶酒入嚟。
Okay.
Okay. Especially, I mean, you might want to retrain your staff because they should be having their eyes wide open for people bringing their own alcohol and drinking it at the table.
Okay.
即係話你
Not allowed.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. I don't have any questions. Commissioner Curran or Commissioner Saxon?
I was just wondering, how experienced is the waiter?
Hi, how you doing?
Hi.
Hi.
How experienced is the waiter? Has the waiter been working there for a long time, or was he inexperienced?
Could you increase the volume? I'm having a hard time hearing you.
How experienced is the waiter? Has the waiter been
Okay.
working there for a long time?
佢話個企台就好幾嚟講。
唔係好耐。佢係嗰陣時，佢係喺度翻 daytime。依家我哋 daytime 冇。
Oh, so he said he's just a daytime waiter, but since the daytime is not open, so he shifted him to work, the night shift.
Seeing no other questions, the board will take this matter under advisement. Thank you very much.
Just for the record, the door was locked and they were using their glasses and the bottles were on the table.
Thank you, Detective. Yes.
Calling Trascaria Volcao LLC, doing business as Trascaria Volcao, located at 204 Adams Street. This is a mandatory informational hearing regarding ownership, beneficial interest in the licensee entity, manager of record of the licensee entity, oversight and control of the day-to-day operations of the licensee entity, and the execution and filing of the annual renewal application for the licensee entity. Allegation that the licensee no longer has the legal right to occupy the premise in violation of Mass General Law, Chapter 138, Sections 15A, 16A, Section 23, 26, and 64.
This is not Moon Villa. You guys are all set.
Oh, we're all set? Okay, thank you. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
Service was provided to this licensee, and I personally spoke to the licensee as well. Is there anyone present from Trascaria Volcao? The licensee, for the record, has failed to appear.
Okay.
Thank you all. Those are all the agenda items before the board today.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.